Mic check, 1, 1, 2.
Pre-game stuff. Hey, everybody, this is the Kooks, Pranks, and Iconoclast podcast. I'm Mike.
I'm Matt.
J-Lo not be here today. We wish him well. He's going through a bit of a rough patch. We're, like we said in the last episode, going through a lot of transitional stuff right now. Trying to get our ducks in a row and find a lot of chickens and storks and other birds that don't belong there, etc. So it's a very confusing time right now. But you know what? No matter what, God damn it, you're going to hear from us.
Show must go on.
Yes. Break a leg. Don't say Macbeth, etc. Anywho, now that all the formalities are dispensed with, our episode today, which I'm going to go ahead and say, this is going to be sort of there's so much stuff that I wanted to cover in this episode. Like, I wanted to make this almost a fucking series, really. So, today's episode is what I would consider an unofficial season closer for season 3 / an official season 4 premiere. And today, we are covering specifically one Mr. Allen Dulles, founder of the CIA, and peripherally his family, who, oh boy, yeah. So there's a lot going on there, and we're also going to be talking about how to put this. The main idea behind this show this episode was to cover the connections between the intelligence community along with occultism as well as religion, spirituality, belief systems, etc.
And how it affects you.
Yeah. Or, people who are now in unmarked graves across the world.
Yeah.
Or mass graves. I'm sorry for laughing at that. But that's the truth.
Yep.
These people fucking are bad guys. And technically, I mean, if you look at it from a certain perspective, they start incorporating certain things and playing with belief systems. I mean, this is sort of black magic to a degree.
There may be just a little bit of occultism in what they do.
Oh, there's definitely some. I mean, we're being hyperbolic. I'm definitely being hyperbolic at this point, but
I'm not.
I am never hyperbolic. Yes, we're gonna just this is gonna stray into some strange fucking areas. So here's our game plan. Matt's gonna kick us off in the real world. These are gonna be your sort of basic everyday. Oh, the CIA did something fucked up. Yep, that sounds about right.
Oh, that's not surprising.
But the level of it is astounding and exasperating and aggravating. You may, depending on where you're listening, feel free to maybe take a shot before we go forward and make sure that you're in a relatively well soundproofed area because you're going to be screaming fuck that shit, or, et cetera, quite a few times. So, just preparing you before we get into it.
The shit we inherited. Man, I'm telling you. God damn, dude.
That's why history is important.
Yep.
So, we don't repeat it, even though the more I learn about history, it seems like that's all we fucking do.
Apparently.
Anywho.
It's a revolving door of fucking the same conflict over and over again.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just...
I told you no!
Yeah. It's human nature playing out against human nature over and over again, and everything goes in cycles, it seems. But anyways, from what he's got for us today, that's where we're going to stray into the really strange shit and kind of illustrate for you that the people who essentially are running the show, they're fucking sorcerers. I mean,
the people that you would think are running the show are not really running the show.
Yeah.
And all those conspiracy theorists out there, you will be vilified a little bit today.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the world and, you think there's more to this, or there's this is just a facade, this is just the masquerade of what's really going on behind the scenes, this will vindicate that.
You know what's kind of shitty about this whole thing is after going into the research and digging into this family alone, I realized that, you know what, a few conspiracy theories that I would have said are complete and utter bullshit.
Yeah.
Are a little bit debatable now. I'm not necessarily on the fence yet, but I can see where there is cause for suspicion.
It's easy to take the available evidence at hand and sort of, Sherlock Holmes it and make inductions and deductions and, leaps in logic to a degree that just all make reasonable sense in your head when you're filling in the gaps. And
the most pivotal decade in the 20th century had to be the 50s, because the end of the war, the atomic age, comes about. And they're supposed to be making this new regime, right? We've defeated the worst evil in history.
Yeah, I was about to say, World War II, this whole century, really, or the 20th century, moving forward. But yes, World War II, I would say, was sort of a turning point in all of this for multiple reasons, but which we'll get into. There's so much to cover. I guess that's enough exposition, really. Let's just dive into it because
let's go,
there's
man.
So much to cover, and there's just so many fucking weird places to go. Matt, kick us off.
All right,
tell us about these bastards.
So, if you guys thought the Koch brothers were influential, they're the Koch brothers.
Coca-Cola?
No, Kcoch. Koch brothers.
KCO. Oh, is that how you say that?
Yeah.
I thought it was Koch.
Anyways,
yeah.
If you thought those guys were influential in politics back in the aughts, in the 90s and all that, with all their money.
Not Ed Koch, the New York mayor.
How am I doing? How am I doing? Not that guy. But if you thought the Koch brothers were influential, they have nothing compared to the Dulles.
Yeah.
In fact, they've earned the reputation from Winston Churchill of he had a phrase for the family. It was dull, duller, dulles. And then
because there was a Larry Curly Moe. Yeah. There was three of them.
Well, there was the less successful one, Cooper Dulles. No.
Cooper?
No. Not really. But so
then there's Mortimer Dulles. We don't really talk about him. We just keep him locked in the basement, feed him a bucket of fish heads here and there.
Shimp.
Problem takes care of itself.
Shimp Dulles.
The shimp.
But so
Gummo.
the Winston Churchill fucking detested John Foster Dulles, Secretary of State under Eisenhower, and very influential man in the Washington D.C. area during the war and shortly thereafter. He said of John Foster Dulles, he's the only bull I've ever met that carries his own china shop. And because the guy could just fucking destroy any work. If you spent 4 hours in a negotiation table or an arbitration, he'd fuck it up right then and there. Get this motherfucker out of here, please. Why is he here? He was also...
we finally got everything, organized. We got it all ready to sign the treaty.
Just sign here.
And then he starts calling everyone a fucking jack off or something.
Where's that John Foster Dulles? He said he'd give me $20 if I got naked.
So, just to sort of put this... to organize this a little better. So, John Foster, he's kid number one out of the...
he is, yeah. There's a 5-year difference between him and Alan Dulles.
Okay. So he's sort of setting the path for the rest who will come along.
So the family has actually been knee-deep in politics since, the 1870s. One of their ancestors was Secretary of State under President Harrison. Okay. And then their uncle was...
died in 30 days.
Yeah.
Not their uncle,
but
William Henry Harrison. Yeah.
And then another Dulles was Secretary of State under Woodrow Wilson. And if you remember your history, that would be the guy that saw us through World War I.
Yeah. And so, to further illustrate, once again, I think it's been this way for a long time in this country. And in most politics...
If you say there's no aristocracy anymore, you're sadly
It's
mistaken.
all the same people from the same families. I mean, we had 2 Bushes, and then fucking we had
2 Adamses.
We had 2 Clintons run.
Up until the 2016 election, you had you had a choice of a Bush or a Clinton.
Yeah.
From the time Bush Sr. ran all the way until this last one with the daughter of a fucking tapestry maker. Whatever.
Yeah.
Fucking.
As an American, you have the right to choose between ketchup or mustard.
Yep.
But Heinz is making them both.
We can stick it up your pee hole or your butt hole. But we're gonna stick you.
Douche or turd sandwich. Yeah, it's all these people come from the same background of privilege and quote unquote well educated at the best schools, the most expensive schools, which
Princeton in the case of the Dulleses.
Yeah, which doesn't necessarily translate to the best. It's just fucking expensive. Street smarts, book smarts. It's intergenerational wealth. It's weird, incestuous blue blood, fucking, like, these are the same, like, royal family bullshit that you see in monarchies all throughout history.
Yep.
It's the same shit. So,
It's the Habsburgs to a lesser degree. Yes.
But
But as
go
far
look
as
at a Habsburg chin. It's fucking disgusting.
as
That's
far
what
as
happens when you bang your cousin.
as far as the Dulleses are concerned, Alan Dulles was born on April 7th, 1893, died January 29th, 1965, most likely from complications from dementia.
Oh,
We'll get into that even further.
Oh, goody.
But, yeah.
I was going to say a broken heart, but then I was like, he probably didn't really.
So, the Dulles family was, they were Presbyterian Calvinists, and they went on a lot of missionary work trips and all that stuff. And the Dulleses were actually born, the brothers were actually born during these missionary trips. And growing up in that environment, spreading the good word of Calvinism.
Yeah.
And
it's proselytizing and missionary work. And so they're like, this is straight up being born into a form of empirical fucking horseshit.
But get this. They also grew up in the era, Alan Dulles grew up in the era of American exceptionalism. So it's not just an experiment, the American experiment. This is I'm not just nationwide, baby. This is a global movement. Yeah. We're going to teach you how to vote for who we want you to vote for.
Yeah. And American nationalism is also sort of a convenient platter on which to serve a more palatable version of belief in eugenics and white Anglo-Saxon Protestant dominance.
And see, there's a little bit of debate there on that, even in there, because when these guys were coming up in their 20s and 30s or early 20s, when TR was president, his view of nationalism was
2 Roosevelts.
Yeah, the first Roosevelt, the warmonger one. Probably a good idea that
the one who shot a Sasquatch.
Yeah, and it got shot by a Sasquatch.
Whoa.
More about that in another episode.
These Sasquatches are rising up and using guns.
So TR's idea of nationalism was in America you have phrases like we're Irish American, Italian American, African American, Caribbean American. Yeah. And his idea was, no, we're all just Americans first. Pay your fucking taxes and go to the library. and then you're whatever after that. Yeah. And be American first. And then everything else is subsequent to it. And that's the whole concept of nationalism, right? We're a country.
I would say that there's fairly ample evidence to support the notion that there is a prevailing background sort of thought of white Anglo-Saxon superiority, as well as the ideas of eugenics, which are very popular around this time that these guys are around. They're
they hold eugenics fairs around the time of these guys in their youth.
Fuck?
Yeah, the they're the eugenic family of the year. There's actually photographs of like
come to our booth. We got some merch you can check out.
Yeah, and like they take photos and put your shit in the circular and all that. And they're like, these guys are clearly the best family because they have zero crime in their family and stuff like that. But this is the generation that they grow up in, right? Like,
it's
Americans.
It's only 1 or 2 steps away, ideologically removed from the Nazis that these guys would soon be fighting. As a matter of fact, I think it started out, one of the reasons they were so fucking pissed about the Nazis, America was very isolationist at the time, and we found out, well, not us, we came along later. Yeah. I'm trying to break myself of that habit of saying that.
We showed up in the 80s. We weren't in the drive-thru when they stormed Normandy.
But I think one of the reasons that there was such a, we got to stop these guys, even before people found out all the horrible shit they were doing, I think there was like a prevalent sort of, these guys are basically doing what we've been planning, more or less, but they're doing it like way out in the open, too loud.
The Germans were actually citing legal precedent for what they were doing based on what the Americans had done to the indigenous peoples here with the Trail of Tears and reservations and so on and so forth. But with the end of the First World War and us being the victors and J.P. Morgan making sure that his loans didn't fucking default or his loaners didn't default on their loans.
See, all the people who funded World War I were of these same circles, running these same circles.
And a weird
and they were high off their shit after World War I.
Which is why the opulence of the 20s occurred. And because all the money all the dividends that came back from paying those loans back, because if the French and the English defaulted, then we would never get the money back.
Yeah.
J.P. Morgan would never get the money back. All the banks that loaned the money would never get the money back. So then all those loans came back in with the interest payments, and there was a surplus of cash. And the Roaring '20s kicked off. And like this opulence.
The Gilded Age.
Yeah, as they like to call it.
Meanwhile, the fucking Dust Bowl and Depression were fucking looming in the background, but nobody gave a shit because Good Time Charlie had fucking champagne popping everywhere.
Yep, champagne hangovers, man. It fucking sucks. But the Dulleses, they stayed on course, right? Like their family knew that they wanted these boys to be involved in politics, and there's big shoes to fill here.
There's masterminding and fucking Machiavellian shit.
I don't want to use the word conniving, but it's pretty goddamn close. So the Dulleses actually got involved in international politics. And Alan Dulles, after graduating from Princeton, ended up a few years later becoming the liaison between the Swiss government in Bern and the United States. And his position there allowed him a lot of luxury. And it was kind of a prestigious thing because the way they operate there is they're a neutral nation. They're neutralist, which may have also helped shape John Foster's ideology on neutralism being a bad thing for everybody because the Cold War can't have a third party. Yeah. You're breaking the ideology. You're breaking the ideology by doing that. I can't have a guy just be like, can't we all just say fuck it?
Yeah.
We can't have that.
Hang on, eat cheese and chocolate. Go skiing.
And,
no, you're not playing by the rules.
The only reason you guys get a free pass is because you're holding all the Nazi gold. Yeah. So stay here.
Your banks are, there's no questions asked.
Yeah.
You've bought yourself a nice little niche to back into.
A little bit of anonymity. So the Dulleses, after college, had a big tie-in with a law firm that was super big in the Western Hemisphere. It was Sullivan and Cromwell, right?
Okay.
And a couple of instances where they used some pull was in Guatemala in 1953, after the OSS was turning into the CIA and all this stuff was still being developed. The shareholders of United Fruit, they found out that the government of Guatemala, who had just elected a totally legitimately elected president, democratically elected, said, hey, we're going to nationalize the lands that you guys aren't using, and we want to give those lands to the peasants so they can work that land and try and generate some money for themselves and pull themselves out of poverty. Right. Because back then, I mean, it's not like they have a tech industry or anything, right?
Is this where Banana Republic comes from?
Banana Republic actually comes from something earlier. That's
okay,
actually,
yeah, that's okay, yeah.
Same Roosevelt 1 era.
Yeah.
But yeah, so United Fruit goes to Sullivan and Cromwell and says, hey, our interests are being threatened because they're going to nationalize our shit.
Yeah.
And we need you guys to step in here because you told us that you would represent us internationally and prevent this from happening. And so here's the order. Go out there and make something happen.
I already find the concept of a international law firm to be... it's already just very monolithic and somewhat ominous in itself, really.
Well, and see, these guys ended up turning this law firm into a tool to violate sovereignty. And so, I mean, if you nationalize something in your country, no one on the globe should be able to tell you otherwise unless they want to go to war with you, right?
Right.
And like, I'm expecting troops to march down the fucking street and fight this thing out. Well, fucking not so much with the Dulles brothers.
Yeah, they didn't work that way.
When Eisenhower became president after Truman, John Foster Dulles had become Secretary of State under Dwight D. Eisenhower, and he was Eisenhower, and JFD was known for being a fucking prick. As we stated, he was a bull that carried his own china shop.
That's John Foster Dulles.
He said, "Hey, we need to go down there and do something. The American interests, we got to take care of stuff." And Eisenhower said, "That's not really a matter of state security or any of that. I mean, we just ran into this with Bautista in Cuba, and
but they're trying to autonomously control their own resources, and how are we going to make fucking money off that?
Yeah, if they do that,
how dare they?
So what I can't do in the front door, I need my brother Alan to do in the back door.
He's a backdoor man.
Yeah. So Alan goes, okay, well, if we can't do it legally,
hey, Alan, you're a sneaky fuck.
Yeah.
What do you think?
If Alan can't do it, no one can, right? So what Alan decides to do.
That's probably the only time that anyone's ever said that about an Alan ever.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah,
sorry if your name is Alan. I don't know.
Anyways. So Alan Dulles decides, okay, I'm going to put a plan together, and we're going to go in there, and we're going to fucking kill this guy. And
yes, they're democratically elected leader.
Yes, they're president.
Yeah.
And Eisenhower says, is there any way you can do it without killing him? And he said, yeah, I have an idea.
It's the whole murder angle.
See, I can't use that word.
Yeah, it's not really sitting well with me.
Eliminate the threat is like the best.
Yeah. Neutralize, that's one that they like to throw around a lot.
And so they're like, okay, we won't wink, wink, nudge, nudge the president of Guatemala. But what we will do is get a coup together, and we'll just bankroll a coup. And so they roll in there and give a bunch of guys a bunch of money and machine guns.
They contract it out. That's their fucking...
Yep. They bought the contract.
Yeah.
And fucking they go in there, and sure as shit, dude, they fucking knock this dude out of the fucking presidency, and he gets exiled, right? They spare him his life and his family's life, and just to be a fucking dick, right? Alan Dulles and Foster Dulles pressure every embassy in South America to not accept that family.
Damn.
So, and then they even tell their allies in the fucking Western Bloc of the NATO regions, if you guys take them, dude, we're gonna fuck your shit up too.
That's how they sold it, basically. It was like, don't touch this guy, or
we will pull
be
funding. Yeah, your Marshall Plan money, fucking gone. If you fucking take this family in.
Nice sovereign government you got going here.
Yeah,
be a real shame if something happened to it.
So where to go, right? They fall into the loving arms of the Czech Republic and the fucking Warsaw Pact.
Come have a kolache.
Yeah, and they were very unhappy there, and it took a very long time for them to finally get Mexico to allow them to move back, and or move back to even the same hemisphere, just to move into Mexico. They're like, look, fuck the U.S.
Yeah,
go ahead and come in. And it just turns out that around the same time to move back, Operation Condor is in full effect in South America. So
we're going to come back to that.
Yeah. And so That's just 1953. Here comes 1954. They're feeling pretty good about how they just toppled the government. These two brothers, man, they're fucking... Boy, they're up shit creek with a turd for a paddle, and they still found a way to topple that government. And fucking...
Them Dulles boys got themselves in a real pickle.
Play the getaway music. So, 1954 rolls around, and they're like, hey, you guys know that law firm? Okay. So, 1954 rolls around, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have a new issue for the companies that are represented by Sullivan and Cromwell. Yes. So, Iran has decided it would be a fantastic idea to nationalize its oil reserves. And you guessed it.
That's not good for us.
You guessed it.
America in 1950s society.
Oh, they're messing with the oil again. We gotta go. Well, let's go fuck them up too.
We have to go liberate their oil so that they can be free to give it to us. I'm trying to remember the Always Sunny breakdown of events from the early 2000s, how they explained it. It sounds very much the same way.
So this time, super successful. They toppled that regime in about 6 weeks.
Man.
And they instill the Shah of Iran, and they make the guy that had nationalized it sign away basically sign away his fucking life. And there's an iconic picture of him crying while signing the documents.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah.
Man, it takes so much time and effort and resources to build something, but it takes no time at all to fuck it up. It's just sad state of reality, I guess.
So the Dulles brothers are they're steamrolling, man. They've already toppled 2 regimes, and President Eisenhower signs off on everything they want.
Like, I was going to say with the aliens.
And they probably backroom dealed some shit for that too.
Yeah, no, that's a whole other side quest.
But here it is. We're closing out 1954, and Ninh Bien Phu, fucking the French just lost Vietnam.
Oh yeah.
Oh shit! And now a baker from the fucking Bronx has now become the president of the Communist Society of fucking North Vietnam. What? A baker?
I didn't know that.
Ho Chi Minh.
He was from the Bronx?
He was U.S. educated, and he was a baker in the fucking Bronx, dude.
Man, that puts a whole other, fucking this smells funny, fucking weird spin on it.
And then...
Because we fucking like to, we like to furnish and, set up our fucking rogues gallery and distribute them about the world. We have a bad habit of doing that.
And France said, hey, you know what? We're done. And then... Even Winston Churchill
this, we quit.
Yeah. Fuck this, and they dropped their rifles.
Who saw that coming?
Yeah.
Sorry, no, I'm joking.
That's all right.
Yeah.
No one in France listens to us anyways.
Not
yet.
Maybe.
You guys should listen more. You'd like it.
Yeah. Anyone who thinks the French, by the way, are just cheese-eating surrender monkeys, go fucking read a little bit about Charles de Gaulle and find out how badass...
I heard he rose from the grave just to prove he could.
Yeah, or the French Foreign Legion, man. Fucking,
yeah, those guys are fucking hardcore.
Yeah.
Anyways, so Ninh Bien Phu happened, right, in 1954.
Okay, what is Ninh Bien Phu?
It's the city it's the last stand of the French, and they lost it.
Okay.
So the French were fighting with American-made 30 caliber rifles, right, like the precursor to the M14, and they were fucking great, man. Like the Vietnamese communists were outgunned. They were getting their asses kicked.
Who was making those? You know,
the U.S.
Well, I mean, like what gun company or?
I'm not sure, man. I know Ruger was really big into it.
Okay,
but I know they make a civilian version of it. I don't know if they were making it back then.
I just curious.
But those 30 cal rounds would they were like one of the first rounds that when it hit you,
it would decimate your entire head.
It would split around inside the body.
Yeah.
It'd tumble.
Jesus.
And like the objective was to pull people off the field.
Yeah.
Because if you wound a guy, it takes one guy to pull that guy out.
That's how fucking guns worked in warfare from their fucking, initial inception. You might have a fucking arm cut off in the Civil War, but at least you got to turn around and become a fucking opium addict. But yeah, then fucking guns and ammunition changed somewhere along the line to
it became more
really
about
fuck you
killing.
up. Yeah.
So the Dulles brothers, in their fucking arrogance, said, "Hey, you know what? We've been working on a few things, and we think we can fix this for you."
So this is 54, you said?
1954.
Okay.
And they said, we're going to send some guys over there to start training the South Vietnamese on how to do this.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, is this around the same time that they're also taking a look at some things going on in Africa? Or is that later on?
That's, it's steadily approaching.
Okay.
But
okay.
So while
we're juggling,
I know
they got a lot of fingers and a lot of pies, folks.
So meanwhile, this is all foreign policy, but domestically speaking, so it gets the things that they're getting into, at least the things Alan Dulles is getting into,
right,
domestically, are getting a little fucking woo woo.
Well, yeah. This
uh,
is around the time that you have shit like MK Ultra popping off, which is essentially, the way I look at it, really is a form of forced shamanism, basically. And you can't expect to take a psychoactive psychedelic substance for, let's say, unworthy purposes and expect to be initiated to the other side or have some spiritual revelation. That was not their fucking idea.
No.
But at the same time, when you're shoving these fucking drugs into all these people and trying to unlock this or control that, fucking, that's technically black magic. So, and that's not even including the fact that the CIA is also looking into and hiring, besides all the Nazis they just picked up on the fire sale after World War II, but various stage magicians, supposed mediums, clairvoyants, mentalists, hypnotists, big time. Yeah.
All that shit.
So there's a whole fucking crazy thing taking place. Once the boulder starts rolling downhill, you can't put a fucking stop sign in front of it, and things are getting weirder and weirder from that point on. All the wooey woo shit, we're building up to that. So because things are gonna get fucking weird as shit. Like we're gonna kind of dip in and out of this world.
I was gonna backtrack just a little bit, to give a little bit more of a explanation. So
some context.
So as you can see, protecting American interests is what they say they're doing,
right?
But what they're actually doing is protecting stockholders, their share of what in their interests, and the promises they made to take care of shit so they can keep getting their money.
But yeah, it's the same fucking country club, basically.
Yeah, we gotta preserve status quo.
Yeah,
and so like if they thought you were valuable, they'd waste time on you. But if they didn't think you were valuable, they'd tell you to get fucked. And case in point,
how useful are you to me?
Yes, and case in point, and how they've hit and missed the mark multiple times. When Alan Dulles was the liaison in Switzerland, like we said earlier, he had an opportunity to meet with one V.I. Lenin, who was in exile.
Oh boy. And
he said, "Hey, Diane, do I have any messages?" Yeah, there's some guy named V.I. Lenin that said that you need to talk to him. It's urgent.
Yeah.
The fate of the world depends on it.
Apparently everything is urgent with this guy.
Yeah.
And the fate of the proletariat is on the line.
And
not on the line. I mean, he called earlier.
Yeah. And he told his secretary, tell him to get fucked. I'll talk to him tomorrow. I gotta go work on my backhand. I'm gonna go play some tennis with some of these guys.
Yeah.
And so
from the club.
Very next day,
Gilligan, get me a Mai Tai. Yeah.
Mr. Khan, another Mai Tai.
Dong, where's my automobile?
Fucking asshole. At the very next day, they stuff V.I. Lenin in a hidden compartment in a train car and ship him back to Russia, and the rest is fucking history for them because they fall out of the fucking war in World War I. And this is a very ironic, the ironic moment of someone's life where, if they had just done this one thing, it would have changed the outcome of their entire life.
Butterfly effect shit.
Fucking V.I. Lenin was gonna turn fucking CI, man. He was gonna be in the pocket of the fucking CIA. Man. And
That's so... Like, I can't even imagine what the fucking world and history from that point on would have been like. Unsurprisingly, once again plays into the whole, like, well, I mean, we kind of need a bad guy for season 2, so, let's keep him in the pocket.
And, I mean, this dude, like, he was nothing at the time till he got back to Russia. And all that whole ploy of the Germans sending him back to Russia was to try and ferment revolution, pull them out of the war, turn everything to the Western Front to win. And fucking, you could have had a guy on the inside of a brand new country. The whole concept of the CIA is toppling and rebuilding regimes. Pretty much. The one opportunity that was handed to him to make or break a regime, he fucking pissed it away.
Yeah.
So, the duplicitousness of this fucking guy.
Well, I mean, to quote Kenny Loggins... No, I'm sorry. Kenny Rogers.
Yeah.
You gotta know how to hold them, you gotta know when to fold them. So
it's just fucking
sometimes
surprising.
It's the cards you don't play.
And then his personal life throughout after the war of
Dulles' personal life.
Dulles' personal life after the war, yeah. Alan Dulles' personal life between World War I and World War II, and even shortly thereafter. He was, I wouldn't say a whoremonger, mostly just an adulterer.
Yeah.
And a toothbrush mustache enthusiast and inadvertent swinger, Alan Dulles ended up banging the wife of the owner of Time magazine. And at the same time...
Who's man of the year now, motherfucker?
Yeah. At the same time, Dulles' fucking wife was banging the owner of Time magazine.
That's weird as fuck.
Yeah, fucking Eskimo brothers.
See, man,
and
this is a specific, all too on the nose example of what I'm saying about, like, I'm not literally using the word incestuous. I mean, I can't,
not in this
confirm
context
or deny, but these same people are all fucking moving in these circles of rich white. This is a fucking media outlet, basically. One of the first big ones.
Dude, yeah, it's the big one.
Yeah, so, I mean, all this, you scratch my back while I scratch your wife's, while she scratches yours while you fuck my wife.
Like, put a finger there, hand here.
Plug that in over there. Yeah, no, this becomes essentially like a unofficial business model that, like people constantly say things like real business deals are made at the bar or on the golf course.
Yeah.
This is kind of the translation of that into this weird fucking milieu of just grody,
So his sexcapades didn't end at banging Time magazine's wife.
Is there a Mrs. Time magazine?
He was also banging the Queen of Greece at the time, and he would write letters.
You're talking about the country, right?
The Queen of Greece.
Okay, she's not like
a country. Okay. Yeah, not that greasy broad down the broad.
Okay.
All right. No. So not only is he messing around with Time magazine's wife, he's also messing around with the Queen of Greece.
Man.
And she would write letters and stuff to him, and he would write letters to his wife, and he'd say, "Today, I banged the Queen of Greece.
Guess what, honey?
And I did it for national security."
Yeah.
And every fucking floozy or whatever, he's like, "Guess what I did today?" And write it, and like out of being like a narcissist.
He's a real dude, bro. Give me a high five, motherfucker.
To his wife.
Yeah.
Like it's either out of like narcissism or out of sheer spite to fucking make her angry.
Just these are people who were probably raised at a dinner table where no talking took place. If you got a B-, fucking you were a failure. and you need to try harder. So
A B- in English. You speak English.
But I also think it's kind of funny is maybe the wrong word, but I don't know, ironic, I guess, that the phrase national security, when you see it used by quote unquote conspiracy theorists today, is always in quotation marks. Like when they say like, oh, we couldn't tell people about aliens because of national security. I almost feel like he was doing the exact same fucking thing in this correspondence to his wife.
So get this shit. This is where it gets really fucking weird, right?
Oh boy.
So the owner of Time magazine, I forget his name. We'll have Cheryl insert that.
No.
So they're supposed to come out with a cover of the Queen of Greece on one of their magazines.
I know it's the country, but I keep hearing it, and I just keep...
Yeah, I know. I know. It's weird, right?
Yeah.
And then fucking the King Philip of England was fucking part of the Greek fucking monarchy. Like, that dude was, like, Prince of Greece or something.
See, and that's another perfect
weird
example of how all these fucking royal families are related.
Yeah.
And,
what a weird clique.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys are into some weird shit.
Yeah.
So anyways, Time magazine publishes a cover with the Greek queen.
Mm-hmm.
And at the bottom of the cover, it says, "My strength comes from the love of my people." And one of the first guys to get an issue was Alan Dulles, and it was a fucking it was a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I know who you're fucking, and this whole
who knows?
The owner of Time magazine published that.
Oh, okay.
And sent that to Dulles as like a little acknowledgement, a wink,
Right.
like I know everyone you're fucking.
Yeah.
And
so that's another thing about this era too, and fucking like just how people were about sex and how it was all very fucking cloak and dagger, and it wasn't really talked about in the open. Which means you could be a fucking scumbag left and right.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I wouldn't be surprised if the science caught up to the fact that there were so many serial killers, then it surpassed it. Oh, yeah. Because fucking dude, like, oh yeah, I know, the window's broke, but there's glass on both sides. It must have shattered from the inside. But so stuff like this went on his whole life. I mean, the dude was a philanderer.
Yeah.
His whole life. And
it's also strange that, well, not strange, but I see it's a very, let's say, natural sort of next step in that all throughout the intelligence community, sex is a weapon. And who you're fucking and who's fucking who.
There's another facet.
The hot goss.
There's another facet that hasn't been created yet, right? And it's the intelligence community jargon, lingo, lifestyle. Like, there's all these new things, like the fucking honey trap and shit like that. All these tactics that they're pulling out. This is all brand new stuff, and they're taking advantage of how these things work, and like, man, it's a modern world, and fucking, I'm sure the CIA had the wherewithal to use the sexual revolution to fucking.
Oh, to their own advantage?
Yeah, I mean, there's no...
I'm sure they did, many times. Operation Midnight Climax, go take a look at that.
Yeah. It's going to be on Showtime soon. Maybe. We'll see.
Cinemax After Dark. No, yeah, the whole intelligence community utilization of this stuff, it's a combination of secrets and shame and rumor and innuendo. Blackmail. Mixed with sex. So you have like the natural, people are fucking, they're going to do whatever they do, to quote the magnificent Dave Attell, whenever a man and a woman, another woman with a penis do to a midget and a donkey is their gosh darn business. But it doesn't work that way in the intelligence community. There's another aspect of it that's all information control. So back in those days, shit was easier to keep a lid on because you didn't have the internet and social media and fucking phones everywhere in your pocket. So the fact that one of the most powerful men in the country at the time, J. Edgar Hoover, is a closeted homosexual at the time,
And a cross-dresser.
which is very much very much frowned upon socially at the time, which could have been, having that information in your back pocket would have probably made you fucking untouchable.
Yep.
But there's such a high degree of information control that it never,
Yeah.
I don't even know when that became
The concept of controlling information became a really big deal after the Nazis. Because beforehand, information was so scarcely available because you're trying to reach so many people over vast distances.
things like radio and
Mass print, but and newspapers that could that could print out 60,000 issues overnight. This is the stuff that helped.
So they take that and combine it with we got pictures of you with someone who you're not supposed to be with becoming weaponized, and then years later, as we mentioned in our, I believe, possibly Tesla episode way back in season 1, but the idea of how the British intelligence community would perform assassinations, but they made it look like it was a autoerotic asphyxiation. Actually,
their favorite.
So like all this shit that's like it's supposed to be on the down low, dirty laundry.
What was the guy's name? Was it Vanderbilt that was a fucking newspaper magnate?
Vanderbilt, maybe
Cornelius Vanderbilt had the fucking.
I know that the Vanderbilt family is one of these kind of families we're talking about because they are mixed in with a lot of things around this time.
I want to say that was a fucking news magnate, man. Like he owned a fucking bunch of newspapers.
Probably. I as far as beyond William Randolph Hearst at the time.
That's the main
that's the fucking Lex Luthor right there.
It's weird, dude. Like they got like this modicum of technology. Like if you were the first person to have a fucking cell phone. And you could call anyone anywhere and get the information out right then and there. You had the advantage,
Yeah.
And now that technology catches up, but as far as information is concerned, man, it's if we can't control it by limiting it and throttling it,
manipulate it,
we can dump so much disinformation out there that fucking the only people that know, there will be a marker or some indicator to let you know. This is from DOD because the fucking journalists now. I mean, dude, yellow journalism has been around since the fucking 1880s, man.
Yeah.
Fucking, I mean, goddamn.
I kind of want to look into this a little more with like the early development of these media outlets.
When John Adams and fucking Thomas Jefferson went to fucking war with each other over the presidency, they called each other fucking hermaphrodites.
Yeah.
And fucking all this other shit, and people believed it.
You had to write a pamphlet on your own and distribute it with your own printing press. Back in those days, man, like there was,
and the ink came from fucking
the blood of the enemies. No, it's just the whole idea that all this stuff is like all the sexual stuff, or anything that can be used against you, weaponized against you. Like, or do you enjoy taking or using illicit substances? It's stuff like that. The sex stuff. Shady business deals you've done. Anytime you've broke the law that no one else knows about.
We know you jaywalked across the street, motherfucker. Yeah. We're going to get you.
Yeah.
No, that's a death penalty in Iowa.
We have it written down. And then that's why today, you've got all the... I'm going to throw out the word alleged right now at the moment, but alien disclosure shit going on because you've got more and more people... Everyone's got a fucking camera in their pocket, and they're coming out with videos of weird shit going on in the sky.
We went from the peasants working the fields saying, this thing fell out of the sky at this giant rock. It was on fire earlier, and they're like, you guys are fucking high, man. Quit drinking and go back to work.
That doesn't normally happen. Big flaming rocks falling out of the sky. I would say that's downright abnormal, actually.
That was 500 years ago, and now there's
considering all the times that big flaming rocks don't fall out of the sky.
Yeah,
it's a little out of the unusual.
And now there's actually a trail of space debris, meteorites that fall from Dallas to Texarkana, and there's like all these parks you can go into and go metal detect and pick up huge fragments of
Weird
meteors, and like, dude, those things are worth a lot of money, man. If you
they got like cell phone minerals in them.
Sometimes it's mostly
That's
iron.
crazy.
But what they'll do with them is they'll take the rock and they'll put it on a wet saw and cut it into slices.
Yeah.
And then check out the innards, and then they'll piecemeal those out and sell them for, like, depending on the density of the material, they can sell them anywhere from, like, I mean, a rock like the size of your fist.
Jesus.
You
heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
Get your asses out from anywhere in between Dallas and Texarkana, because there's a new gold rush on.
Those things, like a rock the size of your fist, you could probably slide that thing into like 5 or 6 slivers and sell them for $100 a pop.
You look like you're fixed. Sorry, the way you're like moving your fist back and forth.
It's all the money I'm getting.
The money.
Yeah. The money shot.
But yeah, to bring it back around.
Bringing it back to sports.
Yeah.
We're gonna. I think we may need to take a break.
Okay. Yeah. Let me taper this off here real quick, I guess. So, yeah, you're working in a land of information control. How you control that information? Propaganda. Goebbels was a fucking dickhead master ninja fucking warrior of this shit. They took a lot of cues from him.
Dulles loved that motherfucker.
Yeah, and then it's like you got all these extra Nazis after the war that knew a lot of cool shit. That
you mean there were surplus Nazis?
Oh yeah, like I said, fire sale. Got to get them while they're going hot.
This team is being disenfranchised. It's time to liquidate it.
But yeah, the whole there's sort of an unspoken intermingling of certain subcultures that always go together, and those are going to be your intelligence communities, your criminal underworlds, people who, let's say, at the time and place in the context of history, were engaging in behavior that was frowned upon at the time, such as homosexuality or drug use, etc. And in there also are people who dabble in weird religions and the occult. So there's a weird ass fucking nexus of all these people sort of intermingling invisibly out of the fucking shot of the public eye. And in that area, this weird little gray space that no one's looking at, strange things are bubbling up that will affect and reach out and touch the rest of the world. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey, we're back.
Woo!
Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, we're on the fucking bus from Speed, and Keanu's got a shaved head, and we are rolling forward because if we stop, we will surely explode. We've got so much shit to cover, and it's going to get crazier and crazier, so here we go.
Okay, so it's the 1960 election. JFK is running against Nixon. Meanwhile, across the globe, over in the newly liberated Congo, it's a brand new country. They're working on their very first democratically elected president ever.
Is this the People's Republic of the Congo, or is that later?
I'm not even sure if it's the People's Republic yet,
Okay.
or the Democratic Republic.
Democratic
the Socialist Democratic Republic of Congo, as I saw it on Grandma's globe when she bought it in the 70s. So it's the Congo was previously a personal property of King Leopold of
Belgium.
If any of you guys know, he was a terrible landlord.
Yeah.
Just god awful. All the rumors about
I can only imagine.
All the rumors about people having to eat laxatives when they leave the job site to shit out any diamonds they may have eaten and stuff like that.
Whoa.
That's all true. That all happened there. People
Jesus.
died on job site all the time, and they just fucking whatever throw them in the fuck pit.
Yeah.
And done. And they're trying to pull themselves out of colonialism, and this president has just been elected back in November of the previous year.
Yeah.
And
young new guy on the block, fresh face,
idealist.
Yeah.
And as was the first president of the Congo, one Patrice Lumumba. And this guy was Lumumba.
Yeah.
Excuse me. This guy was what the Dulles is called I guess
A real fly in the ointment on my ass, probably.
For lack of a better term, a fucking cancerous neutralist.
Yeah.
You can't have any of those hanging around.
Amongst other much more colorful words, I'm sure.
And his whole idea was just, let's just get this back in our hands. Him and JFK, it's not known to this show if they had corresponded previous to anything, but
I'm sure they are at least very aware of each other.
JFK had obviously made the intention of, hey, this will be a partner in the new world order that I intend to make of this ideology of opportunity and
idealism
for everyone should get a shot, and
this is a period of a lot of idealism springing up. Not just politically, but socially. You've got the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King. You got my brother Bobby.
As we're recording this now, it's actually the anniversary of the Million Man March.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
get on the bus.
Yeah.
So
get your ass out there.
In a historical context, out of this time period, you've got America coming out. Well, the world really just coming out of a fucking super dark time. People are rebuilding. People are trying to fucking. We could do things a different way because what we just went through, that fucking sucked.
That could never happen again.
Yeah.
That could never happen again.
Things escalated quickly, let's say. Next thing you know, fucking
Daddy
Hiroshima,
got up,
Nagasaki.
wiped the blood off his hands and said, bad man's gone now.
Yeah.
We can finally figure this out. We can finally go to counseling.
Yeah. You had, the post-war economic boom, like things are getting better.
Yeah.
And with that, of course, generally in historical times like that is when you see a more socially enlightened, quote-unquote, sort of movement come along. So yeah, you've got these idealists springing up. You've also still got the dark side of the force operating in the shadows. And they can't
the old way.
Yeah. They can't be having this shit because it's way too disruptive. So, things take
escalate.
A turn.
Yes. So, Lumumba is elected. It's not even 6 months into office, and a coup.
Another one.
Yeah, another one.
Yeah.
A coup. Who saw that coming? Is enacted on his government, and he is detained and. I guess, for a lack of a better term, kidnapped.
I can just see, a bunch of fucking, CIA, think tank guys just sitting around the office one day, trying to hatch their schemes and shit, and they got, the fucking windows up in the tall, high-rise building or something, and fucking, they're like, what are we gonna do about this? And then, next thing you know, you got a bunch of pigeons on the fucking windowsill, coo, coo, just it's like, man! Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, so a coup takes place, and he's detained and disappears. And the swearing in happens on January 20th, like it always has since they started doing it on January 20th. And a peaceful transition of power occurs in the U.S. JFK is president. Everything's rolling smooth. And he said, hey,
wait, Lumumba disappeared?
Yeah.
No one knows where he is.
Yeah, he's
when
gone.
he's supposed to be sworn in.
He's already been president for 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Meanwhile, back in the U.S., Kennedy is sworn in as president on January 20th. Everything's normal. Everything's running like it's supposed to.
Yeah.
And JFK says, hey, by the way, I was supposed to have a conference call here with the president of the Congo, and I was hoping you guys could...
Has anyone heard from him?
Rig that up for me.
What's going on?
And so the next thing he's told is, sir, the director of the CIA is on the phone for you.
Oh, fuck these guys.
And, dude.
I can't help but think this is the worst possible time that these guys could be calling me.
I highly doubt they're calling for good news.
Yeah, do they ever?
Mr. President, we regret to inform you that Patrice Lumumba has been dead and buried for over a month now. A coup transpired.
I wonder how they knew that when everyone was of the mindset that
Well,
this guy...
that was Kennedy's question. And he said, well, what the fuck happened over there?
Yeah.
I need to know what's going on there.
I'm scratching my head over here.
And there's a photographer in here. I'm trying to hide my my anger right now. But my brow is furrowed and my
Newsflash! Kennedy screams "fuck" in the middle of the Oval Office and slams phone down. Questions arise?
Well, sir, to be completely transparent with you, we found out you were going to win the election, and we weren't sure how it was going to go between the two of you. So we had to
Between him and Lumumba?
Yeah.
That's their fucking explanation.
Yeah. They,
no wonder fucking Kennedy felt the way he fucking did about these motherfuckers.
The Dulles, Alan Dulles, was so worried about this neutral stance.
Yeah.
That...
I'm sure there was way more.
Yeah.
Fucking that's the excuse he used.
Yeah.
Fucking directly to fucking placate his boss, more or less.
He was super worried about the neutral stance, and then he found out, or he got to thinking, in his think tank, which apparently is just
mostly pigeons.
Yeah. Which apparently is a pigeon coop.
Yeah.
Where he gets a lot of his ideas. Fucking. Well, if these two get together, they could change the whole dynamic of the Cold War and start this new idea of just human rights being the thing we need to focus on, not necessarily forms of government, just human rights.
Yeah. They could usher in a whole new era of peace and stability and prosperity.
Yeah,
and that's not good for us because fucking we'll be out of jobs.
One, I owe a lot of explanations to the companies I represent overseas.
Yeah, my various economic portfolio interests dispersed throughout most of the third world, as well as developing countries. Yeah, we were saying earlier that this is just a one-off little idea conspiracy I had, but sometimes I feel like Africa might be like a fucked up like testing ground for... certain people who are power players in the world.
We see even...
So just game it out in Africa, see how it goes down. If it works, then we'll take it, worldwide.
Even when the Suez Canal crisis happened in the late 50s, the Dulleses were like, you know what? Let's see if they yoke themselves, as French and British. I kind of want to see what happens here. And meanwhile,
just enough rope.
The American government was forced to annex Hawaii and start getting rid of territories and start annexing things.
They were forced to?
Yeah, they had political pressure by the Soviets because they were calling it colonialism and we were calling it territories.
Yeah, okay.
And we were like, oh, no, yeah, well, I couldn't help but notice.
So it's just a matter of semantics, really. Yeah,
but they were arguing that we were participating in colonialism, the thing that we broke away from and that we should be representing.
And we're poo-pooing and that everyone else doing it.
And that America is a product of a bad relationship between parent and child and just doing the same thing its parent did to it. I noticed your dad smoked. Do you smoke? Yeah. And now I'm teaching Hawaii how to smoke. Fucking how poignant. Anyways. The shit really hit the fan on, those infamous 13 days where we were on the brink of nuclear annihilation when Kennedy and Khrushchev could not come to terms because of the Bay of Pigs.
Yeah.
And so...
Guess who was behind that?
Yeah. In 1961, the CIA said, hey, it's time to go into action here. We have a battle plan. It's okay, Brian.
Yeah. The dog does not approve.
Brian is not a big fan of Dulles. God. Damn, man, that dog hates communists.
Yeah, it's all right. He got the UPS man. He caught him. He ate him. Everything's fine. He'll be set for a minute.
Yeah.
We were at the annexing of Hawaii.
So... under international pressure to not have colonies or territories, the U.S. government annexed Hawaii as a state, and then Alaska as well. These were this was all a push to show the world that we were trying to incorporate these into into our country. You know,
Yeah.
because territories don't necessarily have the same rights, and it's ironic that Puerto Rico, that has like I think it's 3 to 5 million people, still is a territory, and
I heard that they were. I could be totally wrong on this. I think that they were like getting closer to being more or less fully engulfed, and then some people voted against it. Apparently, I don't know.
So there's this weird fucking rumor that goes around, and I think it's the dumbest shit in my life. So they think there's this rumor that goes around that if you annex a state, you have to do 2 at a time, and that comes from the old Donna Dixon line where you would have a free state and a slave state, but that shit's fucking irrelevant now because fucking
Donna Dixon,
the fucking Mason Dixon line.
Oh, okay.
And
I was like, wasn't a country music singer?
Yeah.
The fuck is she doing with international policy?
Anyways.
So yeah, basically, we've been talking the talk, or we've been talking the talk. So we got to make it look like we're walking the walk, but essentially it's colonialism.
Yeah.
In the eyes of everyone else.
Yeah.
So,
but see, we're our country, not we. Our country has people like the Dulleses to enact and preserve interests because we don't have. See, interests are free. Territories and states cost money.
Yeah.
And time and war.
Yeah.
So they're like, no, we just have interests. Mm-hmm. Those are free. Yeah. And
we owe them nothing.
Yeah. We'll go in there and we'll clear them right out. It'll be fine.
In fact, they owe us.
Yeah. I don't know if they know this, but we employ several illegal immigrants. Is what they said. They're like, it's an American company, and shouldn't you guys be employing? Wait, why are there so many Marines at this banana farm? Fucking, why are we Talibaning bananas right now? Fucking, anyways.
Yeah.
Enough Henry Belafonte. So this is a speech that I wanted to make sure that we got in there. It's just a small snippet. Things started to escalate quickly with
Kennedy's idealism towards, this statement that he's fixing to make will sort of illustrate his outlook on current affairs as far as the use of covert intelligence agencies, and they're more or less they're not subject to checks and balances.
This is also a utilization of the Monroe Doctrine, which has been an establishment since 1826. And now he's demanding that other American nations, North America, South America.
North America. Okay.
Yeah, other American nations, or the nations of the Americas.
Yeah.
He is now demanding that nations of the Americas back this ploy based on the Monroe Doctrine, because
westward expansion?
The United States has backed the independence movement of every nation and the Americas since our inception, since the Monroe Doctrine was enacted. And as all of you remember, or you're just learning for the first time,
can you illustrate
so
what is the Monroe Doctrine?
So the Monroe Doctrine basically states, get the fuck out of my hemisphere.
Okay.
And no colonies, which has, its caveats, right? There's Dutch Guyana, French Guyana, English Guyana, and a couple of others and stuff like that. But there's some, I guess you call it grandfathered in, which is always a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, we all are against a lot of that anyways, but there's just some stuff that's excusable for the most part. But
sometimes it's mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
So
and it's nice to have allies hanging around just in case. But in this instance, Kennedy is telling the Soviets to fuck off. It's not their territory. This is our backyard. This is 90 miles off of my wang, and stay away because we're going to figure this out. But at the same time,
in fact, part of the reason that we did so was to fucking have a little bit more of a foothold to fucking keep an eye on them at this time.
Well, see, here's the weird thing about American culture and behavior, or stratagem.
Yeah.
I guess. So we had Jupiter missiles stationed in Turkey that could hit Moscow like this, man. I mean, like before the snap of a finger could even go off. It's fucking done deal. And they didn't like that. So when Castro came out,
Why?
yeah, and when Castro came out and said, "I'm a communist," and everyone was like, "Hey, what?
Maybe we should rearrange some things."
We're gonna have to send some refugees back with guns, and to fix that for you." And they said, "Okay, yeah, go for it. We'll just go ahead and let some nukes in." And
Fellas, just want to let everyone know you've been promoted. You are now freedom fighters.
yeah, well, crime fighters fight crime, and firefighters fight fire. What the fuck do freedom fighters fight? Anyways, this is a little piece of audio we pulled up from the nerd. It's the president. Fair use, by the way, because it's the fucking president of the United States. Thank you very much. Please enjoy.
The other kinds of struggle, as well as the military, then the peril to freedom will continue to rise. Secondly, it is clear that this nation, in concert with all the free nations of this hemisphere, must take an ever closer and more realistic look at the menace of external communist intervention and domination in Cuba. The American people are not complacent about Iron Curtain tanks and planes less than 90 miles from their shore. But a nation of Cuba's size is less a threat to our survival than it is a base for subverting the survival of other free nations throughout the hemisphere.
Yeah.
It is not primarily our interest or our security, but theirs, which is now today in the greater peril. It is for their sake, as well as our own, that we must show our will. The evidence is clear and the hour is late. We and our Latin friends will have to face the fact that we cannot postpone any longer the real issue of survival of freedom in this hemisphere itself.
So basically, he's saying this is our banana republic, not your fucking banana republic.
Yeah.
And stay the fuck out.
We call dibs.
Yeah. His name was Bautista, and fucking hey.
Is this the same speech where he talks about the CIA as well, or mentions it?
I don't. We just have that small snippet there. I'm sure there's more, but
yeah, because he does mention. Wasn't he the one that gave like the secret society speech, Kennedy?
He may have shit, man.
Yeah,
well,
I think
we're
so.
We're saving that part for the JFK special coming out this November.
I'm gonna hold you to that. You said it on fucking line there.
Yeah.
You said it out loud now.
We're from Dallas. We have to do a JFK special. It's coming.
Yeah. I don't think it's the same speech, but yes, he does mention covert agencies and their actions, as well as I think he actually verbatim drops the phrase secret societies, which in his mind, an intelligence agency is damn near the same thing.
Well, I mean,
which leads into much more of what we're going to talk about here in a little bit. So
the brass tacks of this, obviously, Bay of Pigs failed. That's why it's called Bay of Pigs, not fucking Liberation Beach.
Not Operation We Did It.
Yeah. Not Operation Drop the Banner fucking and confetti and hey, let's have a parade.
Yeah, there was quite a number of CIA operatives over in Cuba at the time awaiting their fucking relief team that never came.
Here's the thing. The Dulleses, well, one of them.
Yeah, Alan, our
yes.
villain of the episode.
Fucking anal Alan. He's so anal about everything. Except he didn't sit in on any of the meetings about the Cuban invasion.
That doesn't
He
surprise
delegated
me
it down to his dummies.
That's like standard CIA operating procedure, apparently, because once again, they're always farming and contracting everything out.
It's probably not a good idea to let Ted in the copy room fucking play in the fucking Bay of Pigs.
Yeah.
Their whole battle plan is, and it's been suggested by a couple of authors that have covered this, that they were going to let the Bay of Pigs fail and gamble on JFK calling in the Air Force to get air support for them. And then...
This is like right after JFK also saying that he planned to soon disassemble the CIA and scatter them to the winds. I'm paraphrasing, but that whole scatter them to the winds is definitely in there. He saw them as antiquated at this point because they were basically given wartime consigliere power.
JFK saw the CIA more as a Cincinnaticus. We only need you in time of war.
Okay, yeah.
Cincinnaticus, of course, the Roman general who was a farmer and then fucking defended Rome.
Of course.
And he put his weapons down, relinquished his position as dictator, and went back to being a farmer.
Okay.
And fucking
turned his swords into plowshares and all that.
I'm only here in service of my country, and I'm done. I'm going home.
Kennedy is about to basically put all these dudes out of a job. So, once again, these guys are having to justify their usefulness and stick around. So
if Kennedy had his way, it probably would have turned into the Central Archive Agency, where they just collect data on the rest of the world as a central archive for information for citizens to pull up. Because if you go to the CIA website, you can pull up information on any country.
Yeah.
And it's just gen pop information, right? Like Ireland has 36 airports or whatever, like random shit. Yeah.
He's about to put all these guys out of a job, and once again, they've got to justify their existence.
And their paycheck.
Yeah, even more importantly. So basically, turning the temperature up on a conflict that is largely considered cold is very much in their interest.
Yeah, when you have a direct line to Khrushchev, and then they're like, "Hey, by the way, that's not good." What do you mean? We are besties. We talk every day. That's not good.
No. You got to have a bunch of fucking bureaucratic middlemen in the center. People can't just have a personal relationship with the Savior or God or whatever you want to call it. You need a church of men to operate in between. You need a go-between, middlemen.
But Mr. Dulles, we talk every day. He loves to sing songs with me on the phone. We have a good time.
We're going to go to Disney.
He wants to go to Disneyland. I'm trying to figure it out. It is bad that you and your arch nemesis talk every day on the phone. And, clearly the president's compromised.
You know what? I bet that came as news to them as well. And that's probably what fucking pissed them off a lot about it too. It's like, well, we weren't fucking consulted on this. So, it sticks in their craw all that much more probably. They probably knew, but
they're over here telling the president a month after the fact that the guy he was hoping to rebuild Africa with has been dead and buried.
Yeah, that's a real yada 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 moment. You just kind of, or just fucking, I don't know. You get a phone call out of the blue when you're supposed to meet your buddy for lunch, and then some fucking guy you don't like, who's also unfortunately in your circle of people or whatever, calls you up as you're supposed to go meet your buddy for lunch, and is like, "Hey, what's going on? What are you doing?"
Oh, hey, by the way, I killed your dog.
Yeah, by the way, your friend's dead. Yeah, it's
you fucking bastard.
Yeah, and it's like, really? Well, everyone's trying to get a hold of him. Nobody knows where he is.
He's not answering his phone calls.
Yeah, that's because he's fucking dead.
I thought he was on vacation.
Don't ask me how I know.
Please, for the sake of security, national security, don't ask me. You know what?
We have to maintain plausible deniability.
From now on, Mike, I'm just going to say, anytime my wife asks me any questions I don't want to answer, no, that's a matter of national security. I can't answer that. Did you take out the trash? I can't answer that. It's a matter of national security.
NatSec. Just shorten it up for a while. Just get even lazier about
You're going to have to call my station chief.
NatSec.
Nutsack.
That's where I was heading eventually, yes.
So, obviously, Bay of Pigs failed.
Miserably.
Yeah, horribly.
There's even audio of Nixon talking about it in reference to what happened in Dallas.
Boy, he loved that.
Not much longer.
So, after that, almost immediately after that, Mr. Alan Dulles found himself shit cans from being deputy director of the CIA.
Yeah.
And,
but he was never like actual director?
He was director.
Oh, okay.
Under Kennedy, he became deputy director.
Okay.
And it may have even been...
Was that when James Jesus Angleton was put in charge?
I haven't checked that one yet.
Okay.
But
I just thought it's just odd that there's a man who worked for who was the head of the CIA and his middle name was Jesus. It's very strange.
So Foster Dulles at this time had been ousted.
That is a fucking rich kid name right there, if I ever heard one.
Well,
Foster Dulles.
Anyways, so this friendship, business, working relationship with these Dulleses and the Kennedys was mired from the onset.
Yeah.
So you guys may be familiar with a very huge international airport called Dulles International Airport. And Kennedy was not having any of that shit.
Yeah.
He said...
the Dulleses were part of that Princeton crowd, and Kennedy was part of that, I believe, Yale crowd.
Yeah,
you know how they are.
Yeah, you know. Our road team is better than your road team. Our PT boats are better.
Yeah.
Anyways, Kennedy said, "No, it's a new era. We want to kind of whitewash some of this stuff and start fresh. And,
yeah.
You know, I don't
turn our swords into plowshares.
Why the fuck would I tattoo my ex-wife's wedding ring onto my finger when I could just rename the airport?"
Yeah.
And fucking call it Chantilly, because that's what he wanted to call it, was Chantilly, just a new...
Because he really loved that Big Bopper song.
Clearly, yeah. I mean, he's a man of the people. I believe there was a speech, in fact, where, if I'm not mistaken, he said, I choose to bang Marilyn Monroe, not because she is easy, but because I am hard. And
hit that applause button, brother.
But
and the other things,
the
things so gross you don't want me to mention them.
It requires an NDA and a signature. So from the onset, the Dulleses challenged Kennedy.
Yeah,
and
it's weird because they're all still part of that same kind of like old money.
Well, fucking, that's the difference, man.
Yankee crowd.
Joe Kennedy was a fucking bootlegger, man.
Well, yeah.
He's Nouveau Riche.
Also, Irish Catholic.
Yeah. So, which they have a huge fucking problem with. And now he's talking about giving fucking people all the rights.
Yeah.
And
plus, quick sort of tangential aside on that, it's too much to go into the whole history of it, but Catholics and Freemasons... have this weird history and
oil
animosity.
And fire, or oil and water.
And I'm pretty sure that most of these intelligence guys starting out, most presidents really, are Kennedy was a bit of an aberration as far as his religious allegiances.
So let me put this into perspective for you. The Dulleses, at least John Foster Dulles, was so anti-Catholic that he had to call his brother in for a conversation that lasted 4 hours. And it was more of a tirade and smashing shit in the office when he found out his son, Avery, wanted to join the Catholic Church.
Okay, I thought it was going to be the other thing. I could understand the fucking animosity from that point, but I'm glad he wasn't molested.
Dear Dad, I want to be a Catholic priest, and I just don't understand why Calvinism is so important to you. I have joined the Catholic Church as a priest, and then get this shit. In 2003, man.
He did become a priest?
Avery Dulles became a priest, and in fact, in 2003, he was a fucking bishop in Pope John Paul II's Catholic Church, and he went outside the normal channels to become a bishop.
Yeah.
I think he even made it to a cardinal.
I bet they looked at his family history and who he was related to and was like,
It wasn't necessarily that. It was his fucking, his conservative writings. John Paul II stumbled upon them and is like, man, this guy's got some really good ideas about stuff, man, about how to...
This guy's a real tight ass. We could use some of this around here.
I mean, he's got a lot of lumps of coal in there that could become diamonds anytime soon. Sorry, I don't know if the Pope really talked like that, but that's just the way.
Yeah, everyone knows that John Paul II talked like a fucking cartoon gangster.
But
see, Vatican II, We're doing it again. It's bigger this time. Vatican II, Electric Boogaloo.
John Paul saw it as like, man, this is the way to save the church and bring it in the new century, because this guy is he's relatable.
Yeah.
At least to John Paul II, who his biggest problem in life was dealing with the Soviets.
Yeah, and that's another big thing we're to come into later.
There's a large Catholic population in the Eastern Bloc, and fucking he's got to be able to.
It's weird that what was his name, Avery.
So
he basically kept all the political ideals that it sounds like most of these guys operated with. It's just that his religious choices skewed.
I don't think he was terribly large on American exceptionalism, but he may have been really big on the whole concept of spreading the good word.
Yeah,
and just
missionary work.
The
white man's burden of civilizing the world.
The missionary part may be the part that he enjoyed most, but it wasn't very long after that. Allen Dulles was fired. John Foster, fuck him, resigned to history. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure his final outgoing memo was, fuck Kennedy.
Yeah.
Any way you need to.
This country's gone to dog shit. Yeah. Fucking somebody needs to do something. Tell that Nixon.
Not me, but somebody.
Yeah. Weird how that keeps coming up.
Yeah.
So it was like almost due to the fucking tick of the clock. Kennedy fired Dulles. Yeah. Allen Dulles.
When we say Dulles from here on, that's pretty much who we're talking about.
From here on out.
Unless we specifically mention a name beforehand. Yeah. Australian for asshole.
Yeah, no shit.
That wasn't even close to Australian, but I think
Australian for piece of shit.
Yeah, I think people know what I'm referencing.
Anyways, so Allen ended up getting shit canned, and it was only a few years later he showed up on I think it was an NBC special that they aired in 1965 about spycraft, and he gave basically
it's like what all these like guys kind of that worked in government and politics, like when they get out, it's like, well, I'm getting a Netflix deal, so
yeah. He did an interview and they talked about I know things in Indochina don't seem right now, but there's just some things that the American public needs to do about taking care of some things that may be a problem later on down the road. Like
how very non-committal and filled with no fucking specific information whatsoever.
You can actually see it.
I don't want to say we're working on something, but and then he touches his nose and looks at the camera.
The interview is called "The Science of Spying" from 1965, and it gives you kind of an idea of what this toothbrush mustache man / swinger / I'm not gonna kill communism in 1918
when I had the opportunity.
I could have killed Hitler
because they're just too darn
just too darn adorable when they're that age.
I just see a lot of potential in these guys. That's all.
Just bad news bears.
Yeah.
But he ended up dying in 1969.
Nice.
They were fairly certain that Allen Dulles was suffering from dementia, and it may have even been
while he was in his position of power.
It's suspected that he may have even been suffering from it
he
during
would be the
his
first or
time
the last.
in power. But it's pretty amazing that he lasted as long. In 1969, he was walking around Georgetown looking for his house, and he got real confused. And anyone could have picked that guy up and been like, "Hey, tell me all the state secrets, and I'll take it to your house." Oh no, your wife is reading the letters about you banging other women right now.
It's obviously not a good thing to have a person suffering from dementia in charge of all the secrets. Yet at the same time, I may have beat this drum before on the show, but all these people who enter these positions of power are already fucking middle-aged when they come into it.
Actually, dude, Dulles fucking started.
Oh, well, yeah, he started way early.
His career, dude, he's lifelong. Both of them.
Man, I don't know. This is why you have to infuse the organization with youthful exuberance every so often, because when you have nothing but middle-aged men and up, they will be prone to certain things like dementia.
It's seeing like the stuff about the Dulles brothers and Alan Dulles being out in Bern. Apparently, Switzerland is the birthplace of what we should call the new intelligence business.
Yeah,
because even Ian
as a business, looking at it as a business.
Yeah, I mean, Ian Fleming spent a lot of time out there as a callback to previous. And,
actually, like that episode, the Ian Fleming episode, I caught a little flack for going off on my John D tangent. I was trying to loop it back all around, but yes, the whole idea of intelligence operatives and espionage was for the longest time throughout history very much frowned upon. I forget which highfalutin fancy pants one of our American forefathers said it, but they basically viewed it as gentlemen don't read other gentlemen's mail. But if you can find out a bunch of cool shit that is to your, benefit by going through someone's garbage, why wouldn't you do it?
That's right. Absolutely. With that concludes the I guess you would call the logical,
the more grounded part.
Yeah.
Well, there's
even the projects they were involved in with MK Ultra and everything else that drew that in. I mean, MK Ultra blankets so many things.
Anytime you have tons and tons of liquid LSD being thrown into the mix, things
when it comes in 55-gallon drums. Mike.
Yeah, that's the handoff. So I was looking into basically one phrase that basically drove all my research into this, and that is occult espionage. The two worlds, like I mentioned before, are very much in the same world, along with the criminal underworld, as well as various societal outcasts, exiles, etc. But the connections between military action, martial action, which is actually named after Mars, the god of war, so right there, and then espionage, which comes hand in hand with military operations and stratagem and tactics. But going all the way back, to the dawn of civilization. Well, let's scoot forward a few years. This covers so much. So, I'm going to hit you with some bullet points, basically. But the Roman Empire, anytime they were about to basically embark on any military endeavor, they consulted the oracles. They made, they propitiate the gods, etc.
They practiced on the field of Mars to train their troops.
Yep. Also, interesting side note, anything that has to do with war and conflict relates back to Mars, and so therefore is referred to as martial, like the martial arts.
Yeah,
anything that has to do with love and making love has to do with Venus, and that's where we get the word venereal. So someone who is necessarily trained in the venereal arts,
which you seldom hear these days.
You might want to invite them to their party, to your party. I've got a couple of examples here, but and it's not just the occult, too. I mean, we're talking about spiritual belief, religious practice as well, which is going to come into play later. But some of the big ones, like I just mentioned earlier with John D., he basically formulated intelligence operations as we know them today. And that motherfucker was talking to angels. He was basically the Merlin to Queen Elizabeth. He was 007. That's where it all started. But aside from him, I mean, you've got a rich history of the Templars. That's a perfect example of a religious/military order. Yeah, so the Templars on one side, and then during the Crusades, you also have, on the opposite end, what are commonly known as the Hashishans, which are also more commonly known and where we get the word assassins from. And these guys practice that they were basically, a warrior cult that was separated off in the mountains, and they were led by a man named Hassan Isaba, who initiated new, I almost hesitate to say soldiers, but let's just go with assassins because that's what history remembers them and where we get the word for. So these people were initiated into the movement through basically what was essentially a mystical ritual where they were fed drugs, once again, hashish, to such a degree that they essentially were put through a sort of ritual initiation process into which they were unable to differentiate the real world from some kind of religious experience. And in the castle, the fortress where these guys were basically located, Hassan Isaba had this like garden of earthly delights where they kept women, like a harem basically.
And nachos.
Anything you could want. They kept these women handy in a harem so that when these guys were going through this sort of like drug-induced ritual, they were also serviced by the harem. And this is technically, to a degree, why you have fundamentalist Islamic terrorists who are so sold on the idea of getting 40 virgins when they go into the afterlife, because Hassan Isaba sold this whole experience as,
this is what it is.
Yeah, this is, I can give you a little taste of heaven, literally. And it's how he basically solidified their allegiance to the cause, basically.
What a great recruitment tool.
Yeah, right?
Good Lord.
Drugs and sex, man. I mean, you will find
and all I have to do is explode on a landmine? Wow.
Or be the landmine? Yeah. That's where you get that like level of religious fervor because they've seen the afterlife. They know what they're going to get. They're promised to return there once they die in service to the cause, whatever that may be. This point in time, the crusade. So, they're not afraid to die. And that sort of same ideological shift or whatever in these people translated into some of the problems we have.
Yeah. We've had I guess it was the fourth crusade, if I remember correctly.
How many goddamn crusades have there been?
Oh, God.
I know there's a lot of them.
More than four. I want to say there was. The Catholic Church actually said the Byzantines were we need to call a crusade on Constantinople, the second holy city.
See, I don't know much about where the Eastern Orthodox split off from the main church. I know that there's a lot of contention there, and that obviously if you look at the Eastern Orthodox Church, it is very much incorporated a lot of the cultural touchstones of where they lived and what was going on.
I can tell you this much. Winston Churchill said the next great empire will be one of the mind. Mm-hmm. And I think he said that statement about 1,500 years too late.
Too late?
Yeah. Because the Orthodox Church and the Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah.
It didn't matter who you were or what your culture was after that. All of Europe better be some kind of Christendom.
Yeah, that's what really matters.
Or we're gonna cut your fucking head off.
Yeah.
Charlemagne made it a big point to knock out the Saxons and burn their tree of life.
Uh-oh.
And that was like one of the oldest trees in northern Germany.
Where are they gonna get their fucking life now?
I don't know.
They used to grow on trees, but they took care of that.
Yeah.
No. As a matter of fact,
I'm stumped.
Nice. Ain't extending any olive branches on this one. As a matter of fact, the Crusades actually kind of set the stage for so much fucking history and the interconnectedness of religion with politics and warfare, because you had the creation of biblical prophecy back in the day. I mean, the books of the Bible were chosen the way they were, and it was put together the way it was to, be politically advantageous.
Yeah, a council of men put it together.
So we've got the three Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, who all sort of consider the same land to be very sacred, yet within the apocalyptic prophecies of the Bible, actually all three religions, I think, sort of adhere to this idea, that when the Temple of Solomon is supposed to be rebuilt on the Holy Land, that's the kickstart of the apocalypse, and it signals the Messiah coming back. So the problem with it all potentially is that you've got a self-fulfilling prophecy that man can kickstart. So, I mean, if you've got people who are willing enough and true believers, you know, with a level of commitment, they can fucking kickstart this whole thing. This is the kind of shit that, like, scares me the most when
it used to be just a hand crank motion to get this thing going, but now all you gotta do is just fucking drop a fucking lever down.
Yeah.
And
it's just, this is what scares me about politicians getting too cozy with the religious rhetoric, because these are the people who are in charge of shit, and all that biblical prophecy of apocalyptic shit kicking on is fucking scary. There's a lot of people who have other things invested in the world and are planning otherwise.
I was going to say, understanding the way the world works shouldn't be the secret knowledge.
No,
right?
yeah.
I mean, like, that should be
idea,
accessible to everyone.
The idea behind what is occultism or the occult, that word just means hidden. And really, all knowledge is there to be found. It's just whether you give enough of a fuck to go looking for it, because if you put in the effort, you'll probably find it.
Yeah, it's the concept of I don't know because I don't know what questions to ask yet.
Yeah,
and that's
or where to look.
There's something magical in it, but there's something magical in the ignorance. But at the same time, the hallmark of our species is not our discipline. It's our inquisitiveness.
Our curiosity. It's
and our adaptability to that information. Like, it's only because we learned some of these simple processes that life is the way it is now. I mean, man,
everything's a mystery till you know it. This whole concept of kind of weaving together military action and intelligence with the occult and spirituality and religious belief. It's a big concept, and I only am just laying the groundwork for this, basically, because this obviously is a theme that runs through history. And then you fast forward years later, I'm not going to go through the whole history of it, because that would be a whole nother podcast, basically. I mentioned to a friend, Wellesley, actually. He's like, dude, you're going to have to cover, like, the entire existence of man. And I was like, I'm cutting it off to about the last 100 years or so. For today, for the modern era. But yeah, I mean, you've got people like, the disputed existence of Merlin, but King Arthur always has a Merlin. You got guys like Rasputin who come along and sort of exercise their own weird, inexplicable
I don't know how
ability.
You pulled it all. Yeah, it's like a political prestidigitation.
Yeah.
Then make some shit happen,
And then, not too long after that, come along a group of fellas we mentioned earlier called the Nazis, and they were way the fuck into that shit. As a matter of fact, I would consider the Nazis more of a religious order that got involved with military and political action than the other way around.
The SS was Hitler's private bodyguard.
Yeah, they were going to be the architects of
the
whole new fucking world order and the belief systems that people were going to be adopting after they...
So get this shit, man. Fucking Winston Churchill had 8 bodyguards.
Yeah.
Right? Hitler had 10,000.
Yeah. That shows you the level of fanaticism and fervor that he could whip up, and because these are like...
Even distrust.
Yeah. These are religious concepts and like levels of commitment and belief.
It's a cult at this point. Going back to the Dulles brothers and working up a fervor about the American experience and exceptionalism.
That all came out of their religious beliefs.
And it's a byproduct of being raised the way they were and taking out their I don't want to call it aggressions, but their perceived castle doctrine.
Yeah.
On countries that weren't even in the same goddamn hemisphere.
Yeah. So, you've got this whole... Basically, the quickest and best way I can lay it out is that the root words for royalty and reality are the same thing. That ought to tell you basically most of what you need to know for most of history right there. You've got the divine right of kings, etc. These concepts are so inextricably interlinked that, that one dictates the other. But as I said, we're going to kind of round this off and fucking tie off the stump in the last century or so. Even less than that, because Nazi occultism, once again, is a whole other big...
That's a different episode.
So yeah. But as far as America goes, you only need to go back and listen to all of our old episodes. Give each one a listen, because you'll see that all throughout not too recent history, the United States has been involved with programs such as MK Ultra, Stargate, the remote viewing program. The Soviets, on the other side, same thing. We've talked about the paranormal gap before. The Soviet Union also, as an atheistic, monolithic body and organization.
A lot of people don't know this, but when John Paul was Pope, I think it was back in the 80s, Poland wanted to build a Catholic church.
Mm-hmm.
And the Soviet government told them, you have 24 hours. And they Habitat for Humanity, that fucking church, in 24 hours.
Damn.
They built a fucking Catholic church in 24 hours.
Good for them.
And they told them if it wasn't done, they were going to send in the bulldozers. And they fucking did it, man. They actually pulled it off. Like, the power of faith or belief.
It moves mountains, literally, almost.
Yeah.
So, yeah. When you look into the more occult side of this, it's strange because, once again, Russia being an atheistic, monolithic, government entity, spirituality and all this kind of stuff was not really on the table for them. So it's already odd enough that they're... It's already odd enough that they're looking into what I guess would today mostly be referred to as parapsychology. So you've got the American sides going into MK Ultra and Manchurian Candidate stuff, which both sides are doing, and then the remote viewing stuff. So the Soviets didn't really buy into that shit, which is why their sort of biggest contribution to this whole, let's say, supernatural sci-fi war, more or less taking on the background. The Soviets basically funneled all their expertise into science and came up with what was termed psychotronics, which we've also talked about before. Sure. So this was their sort of roundabout way of involving themselves in what could be termed extra-normal or anomalous phenomenon. Say that 3 times fast. Without compromising their belief system and having to capitulate to some, invisible sky daddy or the secret chiefs or whatever, whatever religious system. The communists, right, they're going through their whole psychotronics operation, and during this time, they're coming up with some fucking crazy shit. This is where the V2K and all the fucking microwave and directed energy weapons, etc. are coming from, This is the stuff we talked about in the Tesla episodes, and beaming voices into people's heads and shit. And then you've got like experiments on like I believe they're called the Korolev mirrors. There's a channel on YouTube that I highly suggest called the Y-Files. Matt got me into it. But they cover these weird like mirror and energy experiments that were done by Soviet scientists who at this time also are basically separating everyone who works on this shit into whole entire like secret cities, secret Soviet super science cities. And
say that 5 times.
I know, I had to fucking like stop myself to get it right. They're working on all these psychotronics, these Korolev mirror experiments, allegedly, more, let's say indirectly, were giving way to what could be termed inadvertent time travel experiences. There were people making contact with, let's say, beings. I don't know. You can't quite say. No one can say whether it's like
entity.
Extraterrestrial, interdimensional, whatever you want to call it. But one of the craziest fucking stories that I ran across when I was looking into this stuff is that during a bunch of these psychotronic experiments, as well as basically a large contingent of looking into psi research, so psychical research, etc. Because, over here in America, this is the same time that the government's recruiting like remote viewers and shit, psychics, psychic spies, etc. There's so many fucking books, all this stuff, good stuff. Look it up. The Men Who Stare at Goats is where it kind of that's where it like spiraled into like, okay, this is fucking ridiculous. But, as we've talked about on their show, they were making breakthroughs, like coming up with the shit that like, proved that this was effective. So the Soviets are sort of trying to copy this, and in the process, according to one man's research I found, I think his name is Bearden, I don't have it in front of me, but he postulates that all of their psychotronic research, as well as the psi research and the occasional unexpected presence of what you could call today UAPs or alien interference, whatever.
UFOs.
Yeah. There was a sort of combination of this and this man, Bearden, he also basically adheres to the theory or idea that I've posited on this show, what I call tulpatronics. So basically, if I've never expounded on this, the way I look at it is, there's a concept called tulpas. It's basically a thought form. Concentrate all your mental energy and imagination on basically creating more or less an imaginary friend. But you put so much energy and concentration into it that it achieves a level of autonomy, basically. The idea that I sort of look at behind this is like, maybe this process can be directed or controlled with, the subject that's creating it either aware of it or not, because it's being manipulated, basically, or can be. So this dude Bearden postulates that most of the UFO-like sightings that were taking place throughout the Cold War were, at least partially to some degree, a psychic projection of sorts that took place between both people, like sort of feeding energy into it. And when the Soviets sort of like realized this or looked into it more, they started incorporating more psychotronic research and devices and technology into it to further study it. In doing so, the Soviets, supposedly, according to this guy Bearden, they inadvertently made contact with something they called Zarg. Z-A-R-G. This is like the height of fucking weirdness that I found and all this shit. Huh. So he postulates that this Zarg entity is essentially the best way I can put it is that reality is dictated as a sort of collective consciousness of all humanity, and that we're sort of creating it as we go along. It's also, quantums. So the way he puts it is this Zarg entity is sort of maybe a copy or a reproduction or another projected aspect of our collective consciousness, but because this collective consciousness is made up of the minds and the psychic powers, or whatever you want to call it, of every human being alive, that that it is like schizophrenic to the nth degree. So they fucking accidentally like made contact with this thing, and they were like, "Oh, what's this?" And it was like, "I am Zarg, and I'm here to fuck you up, and I'm also crazy." So basically, they ended up, supposedly, according to some of these stories, having to fucking hit the kill switch and all this shit. And apparently, they've got Zarg locked away somewhere. This is like, this is this exact kind of shit that I love bringing to this show, because it's the height of fucking like just ridiculous sci-fi quote unquote reality. But anywho, that's probably the most outrageous thing I found. But sort of bringing it back into the whole wheelhouse of more or less the overall idea of, I guess what you would call the manipulation by military intelligence of religious and spiritual beliefs and occult ideas as well. Where this is more like practically applicated, we mentioned earlier Matt mentioned how the CIA was involved with Guatemala, and from there it sort of spiraled into what is known as Operation Condor. And for those who don't know, Operation Condor is essentially the Central Intelligence Agency taking a shit all over South America for the next 50, 60 years.
We're going to go take a dump on every country south of the border all the way to Antarctica.
Because we can, and they can't fight back, basically. Also communism. We don't want communism in there. That's a big thing. So
we want your drugs and no communism.
Yeah.
We want you to be capitalists about it.
All this sort of culminated and fucking imploded on itself with the coming of, Iran-Contra? Like, that put a big fucking kibosh on all of this shit.
Brother, do you remember that show I was on in the 80s?
Said the president who talked about the biblical apocalypse and aliens all the time, and had fucking astrologers dictating him and his wife's not only policy, but pretty much everyday lives. So, once again, you have another aspect of this fucking craziness.
Pam, can I have another ham sandwich?
During the sort of outset of Operation Condor and the CIA's involvement in South America, this would be the more grounded aspects of what I'm talking about. There's a author and theologian that I found online named Stephen D. Morrison. And for those who are unfamiliar with the terms, today in what I guess you would call Christian nationalism, because we've kind of touched on it before, you have the enhanced presence of these offshoots of Christianity, as we know it, practicing what is either known as prosperity gospel and or dominionism, which is fucking scary. I'm not going to go into it. Look it up. Prosperity gospel is basically, God wants you to be rich, so give to the church. Yeah. Quite how that works, but
I'll get you a job so you can pay me 10%.
So you can bring it here and give it to us. And that's basically where you see, the advent of, what's his name, Joel Osteen. This is where you get the mega churches, basically, and why.
He's based here in Dallas, isn't he?
Houston, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
I don't know if our relatives down there listen to this, but I think they're associated with that church. So I'm not trying to bust anyone's chops or anything. Just
Sorry, guys.
Yeah. But that particular form of Christianity, as well as its much scarier cousin, dominionism, which is basically like, involves belief in biblical prophecy and, no one will be left but the Christians after all the bad shit happens. That stuff it was born out of things that were taking place in South America during a lot of the Operation Condor stuff. And Stephen D. Morrison, author and theologian, wrote this article called When the CIA Conspired to Crush Liberation Theology. Now, liberation theology is basically the exact opposite of dominionism, because liberation theology has to do with Jesus basically talked about, and the church pays a lot of lip service to, the poor and the, disadvantaged are the chosen people, basically. Or not chosen people necessarily, but they're the ones that Jesus was praying to. These are the people who are in the streets and, making the movement happen, etc. These are the people who need the most help.
The meek shall inherit the earth.
Yeah. So the article states, when Latin American liberation theology was developing, the United States took part in the so-called Cold War. One of the common misconceptions about the Cold War is that it was bloodless. The reality is, it was a brutal struggle, especially for Latin America. For example, the CIA actively supported anti-communist death squads in the region through the now classified Operation Condor, not the Jackie Chan film, although it is worth watching, killing an estimated 60,000 civilians simply because of their left-wing leaning politics. And that is just one such operation by the CIA among several dozen. The sad reality is that most Americans are entirely unaware of the violent, repressive terrorist activities of the United States in Latin America during the Cold War. The war was in no way cold for the poor and underdeveloped global South. The brutality was immense, with the United States as the primary instigator of terror. The article goes on to mention we've had enough Alan Dulles fucking Carnival of Horrors already. So
Yeah,
I
no
won't
shit.
go into the priests and nuns who were not treated so well, I'll say. Because, I don't know, I can only handle so much of this horse shit, and which is why I'm using this as a illustration, basically. But from this point on, it picks up later and says, in 1975, not long after Nixon's ruminations about Catholicism, Bolivia's Hugo Banzer, with advice from his Nazi security chief, Klaus Barbie, which is the almost funniest name for a Nazi.
You have to have a Barbie.
Yeah. He urged his interior ministry to draw up a plan against liberation theology. In 1975, the ministry was run by Juan Pareda Asbun, who would follow Banzer onto the dictator's chair. Pareda worked closely with the CIA to draw up what would be known as the Banzer Plan, which was a direct attack on liberation theology. Bolivian intelligence, joined by the CIA and by the intelligence services of 10 other Latin American countries, began to compile dossiers on liberation theologists, to plant communist literature in the churches to shut down any progressive church publications, and to arrest and expel foreign priests and nuns who believed in liberation theology. On July 16, 1975, the Bolivian intelligence services arrested 3 Spanish nuns in the town of Oruro, accused them of conspiring with labor unions to hold a strike, and then deported them. Such arrests and deportation become commonplace. The Vatican did nothing to defend its priests and nuns. The CIA financed fascistic religious groups that would then bomb churches and assault priests and nuns affiliated with liberation theology.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and this is all to stop communism, by the way. You have people preaching about helping the poor. Say what you will about Christianity and its tenets, but in its like truest, purest form, it's all about, helping people, and it's meant to reach out to those who need help the most. This
It's not that.
Yeah, no. This is putting the kibosh on that. And where this sort of takes a turn is when they start getting well-known American Christian conservatives involved. And if there's any Christian conservatives listening now, I apologize for what I'm about to maybe shatter for you. But I think most people know pretty well, actually, that people like Billy Graham, as well as the despicable Pat Robertson of the 700 Club, they're total pieces of shit. They're horrible people. They say horrible things.
Now see, what we need is $700 million for 28 Striker missiles.
I know the Lord
So
wants me
go
to
in
do
there.
it. That's how I know. It's just how I know, because I go lama 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 lama.
Lord needs $27,000.
He's all knowing, all seeing, and he needs your money.
He needs Stinger missiles, Strikers, in-laws, all of them. Come on, send them down.
And the church needs a private jet, just
church,
so we can, get around and help people.
So Sally Struthers can come on down there to Africa and tell everybody what we need to do.
And eat sandwiches in front of people. Not only had the Vatican been seized by the threat from liberation theology, but Catholics seemed to drift off towards evangelical churches, many of them financed by U.S. evangelical projects, such as Pat Robertson's Christian Broadcasting Network. Protestant sects, particularly those with U.S. roots, preach the gospel of individual enterprise, prosperity theology, not social justice, because social justice, that's a fucking...
Well, that can't benefit anyone.
Yeah. I mean, I get that the social justice warriors are kind of cunty. They can be really, annoying, but I don't know. It's finding a way to balance your good intentions with positive actions without being a preachy asshole about it. Protestant sects, particularly those with U.S. roots, preach the gospel of individual enterprise, not social justice. That is why Rios Montt left the Catholics and joined Gospel Outreach Church of Eureka, California.
Hey, that's a real place.
Yeah, he didn't have an epiphany of any kind. When Rios Montt came to power in a military coup in 1982, okay, so once again, military coup, apparently has some help. Pat Robertson dashed down to Guatemala City to interview him for the 700 Club. Robertson portrayed Rios Montt to his more than 3 million viewers as having a deep faith in Jesus Christ, quote unquote. This is Rios Montt, who not only let loose his army to conduct a genocide of his own people, but who said, "If you are with us, we'll feed you. If not, we'll kill you."
We stand with those who stand against us.
Yeah, there's no real room for interpretation on a statement like that. A decade before, the leaders of 32 Pentecostal churches in Chile welcomed Pinochet's group. For those who don't know, Pinochet, known fascist. They said that the overthrow of Allende was God's answer to the prayers of all the believers who recognized that Marxism was the expression of a satanic power of darkness. Oh, there it is.
Uh-oh.
We, the evangelicals, recognize as the higher authority of our own country the military junta. Is that how you say it?
Junta.
Junta? The military junta who in answer to our prayers freed us from Marxism. So, okay. Once again, bringing this all back into what we've been talking about this whole episode, the inextricably interlinked nature of politics and religion / spirituality / even the occult, yes, but to a much lesser degree when you're looking at the cold, hard, grim, meat hook reality of things is how they go down. I find it strange that the super right-wing Christian conservative people who do invoke the ghosts of the forefathers usually tend to gloss over the fact that Benjamin Franklin was a member of the Hellfire Club and things like that.
Yeah.
You cherry pick history. That's all it is. It's just, and then now we live in a post-truth world where, you can say like, well, the source is saying, it's like, well, who wrote the source? Where'd you read it? Where'd you write it? What website was it on? None of it fucking, that's kind of the place we're at. Continue today with the rise of far-right evangelicalism in America. Those surprised by our last president and his unwavering support by evangelicals should consider how this phenomenon is more deeply rooted in evangelicalism itself. In other words, it is not a flaw that fascistic tendencies have arisen because of something inherent to evangelicalism itself. American evangelicalism has flirted with fascism from the beginning. The complicity of the predominantly white church into racism in America is deeply rooted in our theology. Racism is a theological problem that must bear fruit in social justice and political change. Theology without praxis is an empty language game. The theology of evangelicalism has been proven bankrupt by its political praxis, not only in its recent alliance with our last president, but with the above examples in Latin America. And this is not, I have tons of back matter I've assembled in researching most of this. There's more stuff specifically about Pat Robertson, too. He's actually deeply entrenched in the African blood diamond game.
As he's pro or
he's
anti?
Well invested in it. All this kind of stuff is right out in the open, really. All you have to take a look at is that carved in marble at the CIA's original headquarters, the agency's unofficial motto is from the Gospel of John. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Personally, speaking from, my own experience, the truth mostly just hurts your feelings, complicates things, might get you slapped, might get you into some trouble with some friends.
Wouldn't be the first time.
But I'm not advocating lying to your friends and loved ones, but yeah, I don't know. Situational ethics are a motherfucker, I guess. I really don't, normally care to get political or too religious on this show. I just, most of this is to illustrate that these sort of things have been taking place, and there's still very much a relevant relationship between these entities, if you will. If you want to get really kooky and woo-woo and conspiratorial about it, me personally, I kind of think the CIA had a hand in the Satanic Panic as well, because you had very much, even outside of like mind control conspiracy horseshit, because if you are able to galvanize, support, and rally a fucking group of people, I don't think it would be much harder than whipping up a scary fucking Satanic Panic horseshit story. Our episode recently on Kathy O'Brien and all this monarch mind control shit just really got me thinking, because that's a whole weird cross-section of largely Christian-based conspiracy theory. Like, they took, MK Ultra and they just shoved satanic ritual abuse and Satanic Panic right into it, just made a fucking panini out of it. And through that, not too long later, we have QAnon and shit, which is a whole other, and
then you get a
update.
whole Cuban sandwich out of it.
Anywho, what I'm saying is that you have a whole new resurgence of these sort of Christian faith-based conspiracy theories that launch into and talk about some of the most heinous made-up shit I've ever heard.
But you also have to remember the doctrine that started our international policy post World War II was based on two Presbyterian Calvinists that thought.
Well, yeah, but that has
this whole it has everything.
I mean, it does have to do, but
it has everything to do with it, and it's the way that they view the world. Man, like. This is
but this is made up shit I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I'm
so is theirs. It's totally made up shit.
Well, yeah, but this is the problem. This is what I'm getting at, is these beliefs. See, if you get a fucking Kathy O'Brien, or more pertinent to our certain date and time, say like a fucking QAnon true believer who really believes in all that shit in a position of power, much like Alan Dulles was, we're all fucked. That's not going to end well for anybody. It's just, and what gets me the most about all that Project Monarch stuff, like, I'm still like, it's just, I can't scrub it off.
I'm not thrilled about it either.
The QAnon stuff and all that, like, ventures off into talking about how people were traumatized for this and that, whatever nefarious reason, but they go off on these just continuous screeds elucidating on the most disgustingly heinous, anti-pornographic, and by that I mean like it's all filthy and dirty, but it's no one's getting titillated by it. It's fucking awful, horrible shit, and I think it gives a very there's a level of projection taking place in these people's heads. I think like this is their fucking disgusting little sub-psyche weird fantasies that they're projecting onto the world. Anyways, enough touching on that horrible shit. I'm going to close out with one final story we got here. Some of you may have heard this one, some not. But this is also a perfect illustration of the inextricable link between belief and military and intelligence operations. How stuff works is where I got this. There are more than 7,000 islands that make up the Philippines. And the former Spanish colony is home to 175 different languages and a wide array of cultural practices. But if there's one indigenous belief that survived centuries of Spanish rule and continues to haunt Philippine nightmares, it's the terrifying bogeyman known as the Assssssswang. The Assssssswang doesn't have an exact match in the Western pantheon of monsters. Some people call it a vampire, but it feeds on more than just blood, that being organs, unborn children, phlegm. And it can... phlegm, Jesus. And it can take on alternate forms, like a giant pig, a nasty dog, or even a man-sized vulture.
Whatever shape it takes, the Assssssswang is widely believed to be the source of sudden illness, mysterious deaths, and other misfortunes in the Philippines. Believe it or not, back in the Cold War craziness of the 1950s, a CIA operative in the Philippines took advantage of Assssssswang superstitions to scare off communist rebels. And how he did it, puncturing a victim's neck with 2 vampire-like holes, hanging them from a tree, and draining them of their blood, might have been even scarier than the fucking Assssssswang itself. Before the outbreak of World War II, Edward Geary Lansdale was a San Francisco-based advertising whiz with clients like Levi Strauss, Wells Fargo, and Nestle. You know, the fact that this man was in advertising really doesn't come as a surprise either.
No, yeah, that helps. That was a calculated decision.
Yeah. When America entered the war, Lansdale joined the Army like hundreds of thousands of patriotic GIs. The Army recognized Lansdale's talents and recruited him to the Office of Strategic Services, a precursor to the CIA.
OSS, baby.
Lansdale capitalized on his advertising experience to become a pioneer of psychological operations, or, for shorthand, PSYOPs. The targeted use of propaganda, media, and marketing strategies to win support for the Allies and demonize the enemy. When World War II was over, the U.S. government needed Lansdale's special skills to defeat a new enemy, the Soviet Union and its communist operatives in Southeast Asia. In 1950, Lansdale arrived in the Philippines as, officially, an Air Force officer and advisor to the Philippine President, Ramon Magsaysay. When Lansdale didn't print on his business card that he was really working for the CIA, of course not.
Oh, what a surprise.
Yeah. Lansdale was assigned to the Philippines because Magsaysay and his U.S.-backed regime were fighting a protracted war against communist rebels known as the pronounced Hooks. During World War II, the Hooks were a heroic Philippine army that fought the Japanese. Their full name in Tagalog was, I'm going to butcher this, I'm sorry to our Filipino-speaking audience, Hukbo Nagbayan Laban sa Hapon, or the People's Anti-Japanese Army. But after the war, the Hooks and their leader, Louis Taruk, broke with the government over the controversial Philippine Trade Act of 1946, which handed the American government equal rights to the Philippines' natural resources. The Hooks had legitimate complaints, since the free, quote-unquote, elections in the Philippines were rigged by U.S. operatives, and the CIA also controlled the Philippines' quote-unquote free press. But to hear Lansdale explain it in his memoirs, titled In the Midst of Wars, An American's Mission to Southeast Asia, he was sent to the Philippines to protect the democratically elected government from dangerous communist rebels. To quote, "My orders were plain. The United States government wanted me to give all help feasible to the Philippine government in stopping the attempt by communist-led Hooks to overthrow the government by force. My help was to consist mainly of advice where needed and desired. It was up to me to figure out how best to do this. Conventional military men think of combat psy-war almost exclusively in terms of leaflets or broadcasts appealing to the enemy to surrender," he continued. "Early on, I realized that psy-war had a wider potential." Sorry.
Such a great potential.
Oh, man. Okay. Lansdale and his CIA team got busy doing a military version of quote-unquote market research. According to William Bloom, author of Killing Hope, U.S. Military and CIA Intervention Since World War II, he says, Lansdale's team conducted a careful study of the superstitions of the Filipino peasants living in Hook areas. Their lore, taboos, and myths were examined for clues to the appropriate appeals that could wean them from supporting the insurgents. According to Bloom, one of Lansdale's tactics was to fly over Hook-controlled areas in light aircraft and broadcast quote-unquote mysterious curses in Tagalog on any villagers who offered help to the Hook soldiers. The tactic reportedly succeeded in starving some Hook units into surrender. In his memoir, Lansdale brags about an improvised bit of homemade voodoo he called, quote-unquote, the Eye of God. It was based on a World War II Psy-War tactic of learning the names of individual German officers and announcing on the battlefield over loudspeakers that they would be the next to die if they didn't surrender. That's kind of cool. See, when you do it to Nazis, it's fucking cool. Lansdale's twist was to paint a cryptic symbol he called the quote-unquote Eye of God outside the homes of suspected Hook sympathizers. The mysterious presence of these malevolent eyes the next morning had a sharply sobering effect, wrote Lansdale. But Lansdale was clearly proud of his most brazen and bloody psychological warfare operation in the Philippines. According to Lansdale, a Hook squadron had set up a camp on a hill outside of a village. The village leaders claimed that the Hooks threatened to kill any village quote-unquote bigwigs who didn't cooperate. Lansdale sent in a CIA-trained combat Psy-War squad with clear instructions. First, the Philippine PSYOP agents were to plant stories among the villagers that an Assssssswang was hunting the hill where the Hooks camped. Then, after a few days, enough time for the rumors to infiltrate the Hook encampment, it was time to strike. Here's how Lansdale described the operation in his own words. The Psy-War squad set up an ambush along the trail used by the Hooks. When a Hook patrol came over the trail, the ambushers silently snatched the last man on patrol, their move unseen in the dark night. They punctured his neck with 2 holes, vampire fashion, held the body up by its heels, drained it of blood, and put the corpse back on the trail. When the Hooks returned to look for the missing man and found their bloodless comrade, every member of the patrol believed that Assssssswang had got him, and that one of them would be next if they remained on that hill. When daylight came, the whole Hook squadron moved out of the vicinity. To be clear, a CIA-trained squad of Philippine soldiers kidnapped Hook fighters and killed them vampire style, leaving their bloodless corpses behind. According to Jordan Clark, the purveyor of a website known as the Assssssswang Project, he thinks that's quote-unquote pretty messed up. He says, "To me, this is a brutal and horrific scene with or without the Assssssswang lore. It's not even clear if the Hooks believed it was an Assssssswang killing the people, or if they were horrified at the desecration of the deceased by the CIA-advised troops. In his research, Clark found that people of the region of the Philippines believed in a creature called the Manananggal, a self-segmenting type of Assssssswang that fed on the fetuses of pregnant women, not a Dracula-style bloodsucker." I've seen pictures of this supposed monster. It's like a lady from the torso up who just like floats around with their guts hanging. Their monsters are pretty creative.
Well, that's the best way to get around.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking terrible, Mike.
Yeah. There was no vampire-like Assssssswang lore in the region, he says, so I'm skeptical that this Psy-War tactic even worked, other than the terrifying visual of seeing your friends strung up like that. Clark also points out that the Assssssswang scare tactic was apparently only used once to dislodge a Hook squadron of between 100 and 300 soldiers.
So just an interjection real quick.
Yeah.
So was it because of Predator?
This was before that.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
But did Predator pull
They might have
from
taken a cue from this, you
a
think?
little bit, and the way the bodies got strung up and the skeletons stacked and
You know
so
what?
on and so forth.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they took a plot cue
They
from that.
Americanized the trauma.
Well, now also, I mean, the region in the Predator movie that they're in, that's the kind of, I believe, I could be wrong on this, but I believe that's the
You
same
mean
area.
New Belize, they.
Well, I would say that if it was Belize, but that's nowhere close. No, I think this might actually be the same area that we're now, well, most recently at least, out of Peru, hearing the stories about the tall aliens who can do Predator shit, and that those things have been around for a while, and now there's a village out there, you know, calling for help from the local military to come kill these goddamn aliens.
They were one of the first to admit that
Well, yeah, they said it was miners with jetpacks trying to steal their gold. But let me ask you this. If you're a miner and you've already got a jetpack, what the fuck are you doing hanging around trying to steal people's gold? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. Actually, they weren't even supposed to be jetpacks. They were supposed to be like weird, like orb shoes that make you float and levitate.
Did you get a letter wrong in the name of jetpack?
And then you've got like armor and shit that can make you all predator out. So if there's like a crew of miners who have this fucking technology, who gives it? What the fuck? I don't know.
Someone call Joe Rogan.
Someone call a PSYOP expert to go work for the Peruvian military. This is definitely one of the more stranger examples of this kind of stuff. But I mean,
what is this article? Who wrote this?
This is from How Stuff Works. I mean, there's tons of people who covered this story. This is just one of the more concise coverage I've heard of it.
This guy in particular.
Dave Roos, R-O-O-S, for How Stuff Works.
Dave Roos.
There's been tons of people who covered this story, but this is one of the more well-known, well-reported, and much more egregious forms of this kind of stuff. I mean, there's so much other stuff I wanted to drop in this episode. Like, I was going to kind of expound more on the whole satanic panic thing, and then talk about the guy from the Temple of Set, Michael Aquino. We mentioned him on the show before.
And then we hit 3 hours.
Yeah.
Going on 4.
Yeah.
And you're like, man,
So,
you know what?
Yeah. No. Michael Aquino, we mentioned him before. He looks like a chubby 80 monster. He's the guy who left the Church of Satan because it wasn't hardcore enough. And then he went and formed an even nerdier version of the Church of Satan called the Temple of Set because he thought they didn't do enough homework. He also got like wrapped into the whole satanic panic shit because I really think just everyone fucking hounded him because he was a fucking military Satanist and people knew it, and he was like a high-ranking officer. So, you know, he makes a perfect scapegoat. I don't like the guy or anything.
They
He's a
do
piece of shit,
Satanist funerals at sea.
Do what?
They do Satanist funerals
Yeah.
at sea.
Yeah.
They do.
The U.S. military has actually according to some, I mean, I haven't seen any like actual documentation to back this up, but supposedly the U.S. military has quite a large contingent of Satanists who officially list Satanism, quote unquote, as their official religion upon joining up. So
the fun part is putting what you want on your dog tag. You know,
what do you want on your tombstone?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you guys getting pizza? So yeah, that's our Alan Dulles / occult espionage belief systems being manipulated to make you clap.
Really enjoyed this. Anyways, we hope you enjoyed the show. I enjoyed talking into the microphone, pretending that I was talking to you. And
yeah, I like talking to you too. I picture you naked every time I do it. The audience, because that's what they say. If you're nervous about speaking, you should picture the audience naked.
Yeah,
it helps you get through the day.
There's a whole lot of Freudian psychology we haven't even dipped into yet.
I do it at least 7 or 8 times a day. I'm having, just going through my life.
Chronic Freudian.
Folding laundry, pouring myself a glass of sweet tea. Just think about all you guys naked. It gets me through. So
you guys are great. I really hope you enjoyed this while you were mowing your lawn or driving or whatever it is you're doing.
Making a bundt cake.
And I cannot stress this enough. If you guys can give us some feedback, that'd be great. But and we're gonna do our best to get J-Lo back in the fold here.
Yeah,
as best we can.
Things are complicated. Life happens.
And I know you guys are missing J-Lo's sweet, sexy voice. But
yeah, so hopefully, things are going to end up coalescing back as to how they were, and we'll be back on top of our game. Not that we're too far off. Hey. Yeah. So once again,
for the ground up, man.
Thanks for dropping in. Thanks for listening to us. We hope you enjoyed the episode. We hope to see you again next week. You guys are awesome. You are the reason I get out of bed in the morning. I love you.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks everyone. We'll see you next week. Well, we won't see you, but you'll hear us, and we'll be picturing you naked. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, shout out to all our Facebook followers. Appreciate that.
Yep.
If you're inclined to do so, please.
At Kooks, Pranks, and Iconoclasts
at
Gmail. Yeah. The other email that we've been using, just once again, things are a little confusing right now.
Yeah.
So yes, Kooks, Cranks, and Iconoclast at Gmail, or you can visit our website at kooks-cranks-and-iconoclast.com. That's it, I think. You got anything else?
If you're from Ireland and have some points you want to get across about how Dublin won, go ahead and hit us up. We'll talk to you about that too. We don't care. We just want to talk to you. We just want to engage with you. So please hit up our Q&As and our polls. We want to hear from you so we know what you guys
I gotta
want
give
us
another
to
big
cover.
ups to the UK, really, man. You guys are really showing up for us. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Canada is stepping the fuck up too. Appreciate that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You true does are just making it happen.
Oh man. All right, that's enough of us rambling. I gotta eat a pizza. I'm Mike.
I'm Matt.
This has been the Kooks, Cranks, and Iconoclast podcast. We'll see you next week.
We're out.